Hey guys, welcome to Reddit Brew. Today, I will be reading in the JUSTNOMIL subreddit. And I also wanted to let you guys know that I am doing a very special 10K giveaway. I will be picking 2 winners at some point to pick anything they want from my merch store. All you have to do to enter is be subscribed and comment down below a coffee cup emoji. I'll put the merch store link in my pinned comment below. And of course, don't ever feel obligated to buy anything. I just made the store as an option as a few people were asking about it, which is insane. I can't believe people like me enough to ask for merch. But anyways, let's just get on with the story, shall we? Warning, this one is infuriating. Just decided to go no contact. Long story. Where do I start? My husband had an upbringing where partying, drug use, and excessive alcohol were normalized. His parents introduced drugs to him from a young age, treating him like one of their party friends, fueling addiction, and cheating him of a normal childhood. My husband has since gone through rehab, a lot of personal growth, and has grown into an all-round wonderful man and father to our 6-month-old son. He has accepted his trauma and tries to maintain a relationship with his mother as part of trying to be a good son. To be honest, I don't understand why, but I support his journey of healing. Mill is your typical just no Mill. She's pushy, undermining, self-victimizing, overly dramatic, narcissistic, the lot. For our wedding, she wanted her friends and her family to attend and us to pay. In-laws did not fund our wedding in any way. When we pushed back, it was met with waterworks and guilt trips. We gave in, and it was the worst decision, but that's a story for another post. Now, one of the guests she had to have there was a very slimy man who we will call Keith. Keith had always rubbed me the wrong way, and at the wedding, he was getting too close to me in ways that made me feel uncomfortable, such as touching me on the small of my back and going lower. I raised this with the in-laws, and they laughed it off saying, "Keith's harmless, he means well, he's fine." Okay, but now you know how I feel about him. With the birth of our son, I was very apprehensive on how much involvement Mill would have with him. But my husband wants so much to believe she would be a good grandmother, so he includes her much more than she deserves. She gets a video call every night. She is allowed unexpected drop-ins. We visit each other several times a week. She receives every picture and video we take of my son. I absolutely loathe these interactions, but I want to support my husband's journey in his relationship with his mother, as it is important to him. There are many things that annoy me about how she acts as a grandmother, such as insisting on glamour, snatching my son from me as soon as I walk in the door, and refusing to give him back to me when we are leaving. So far, nothing that endangers him per se, but are very annoying behaviors. However, we have made it very, very clear on numerous occasions that we will absolutely not let anyone hold him if they are under the influence of drugs or alcohol. We don't let her hold him whenever we know she is under the influence, and she will act like she is hard done by, crying, guilt-tripping, martyring, and victimizing herself. But we are firm. A few months ago, as she was holding our son, she told us her and father-in-law had been microdosing LSD every day. My husband reminded her of our one rule, and as he went to take our son back, Mill quickly changed her tune. "Oh, no, I don't mean me. I haven't been doing that. Of course not. If that means I can't hold my grandson." She promised and snatched him back. 2 days ago, we visited their house. We walked in, and there was Keith in all his disgustingness. Knowing how we felt about Keith, she had purposely neglected to tell us he was also visiting. They were all drinking. Mill refused to hand my son back to me so that we could leave. Father-in-law is raving to Keith about how they had been taking LSD, which is exactly what Mill said she had not been doing. Keith dropped to his knees. Phil dropped a dose into Keith's mouth. Keith sprang up, said to Mill, "Can I hold the baby?" And without hesitation, Mill said, "Of course you can," and handed my son off to Keith. I was livid. I took my son and I left. Mill came running out as I buckled my son into his car seat, trying to get into the other side of the car to say goodbye. My husband sharply told her to stay out, and we left. My husband and I agreed that boundaries needed to be set and called Mill to discuss these issues. We were calm and respectful, but clear on how we did not want drugs being taken in front of our son. Reiterate the no holding while under the influence rule, that our son is not hers to pass around to whoever she wanted, and least of all to a man we are not fond of. We were not unkind, but she left the phone call in tears. The next day, we receive a phone call from Phil screaming at my husband about how terrible of a son he is, how he absolutely broke his mother's heart, how she was inconsolable all night, which drove her to drink and take more drugs. How dare we attack her like that? And the baby is a baby. He doesn't know what is happening if a grown man is kneeling in front of another having LSD dropped in his mouth. How cruel we are to threaten her access to her grandson. And the most ironic part? Threatening to cut my husband from their lives forever. My husband saw red. He said that that was fine, if that meant he could protect his son from a childhood like the one he had. Mill wailed about how she was always being painted as a terrible mother, and there was no harm in what they did, and how she was being punished for a tiny mistake by having her grandson taken away from her. And anyway, Keith's not a bad guy. We cut contact for the day for everyone to cool off. The next morning, my husband felt so awful. He felt guilty for upsetting his mother, but knows he did right for our son. I constantly reminded him that he should not be feeling bad at all, and we talked a lot about how his feelings of guilt are misplaced and how to resolve them. He insisted he wanted to resolve the argument with his parents, and against better judgment, he called them. It was a shit show. Mill does not have the capacity to recognize nor comprehend she is ever in the wrong, and she has never taken any responsibility or acknowledgement that she is ever wrong for anything. She doesn't understand why we are upset, saying she was the one who was being attacked, that she did nothing wrong, but she just has to be at complete mercy to our rules because we are weaponizing her grandson against her. She fails to see that seeing her grandson as much as she does is a privilege, not a right. We tried and tried to reason with her, but it got nowhere. We respectfully asked for some space, as my husband is extremely hurt beyond words. To him, this is his childhood all over again. It's opened up wounds and reliving trauma, and his life needs to be about his son now. Space? All space does is create distance, and life is too short. One of us could die tomorrow, and I would hate to miss out on any lost time with my grandson. Everything that spewed from her mouth was how this was hurting her. She knows she was a great mother, but she is still learning how to care for a child. Not once does she ever mention wanting to reconcile with her own son. I am done. We want to go no contact for at least a month. After that, I don't know, but our son is first and foremost in our lives. Update to going no contact with drug-taking JUSTNOMIL. So last we left off, we went no contact with Mill. My husband and I started counseling. Everything felt really good. We were peaceful, tranquil, stress-free, and we were functioning really well as individuals, as a couple, and as a family unit. I felt I was rising up as a mother to our son, being his protector, and I was confident. 2 weeks later, we received a message from Phil. When is this break over? And then came a steady stream of messages about how we were breaking Mill's heart, that 2 weeks was long enough for this to go on for, that we were causing them pain and suffering and hanging a cloud over their heads. And of course, when can we see our grandson? It was stressing my husband, and since it concerned our son, I replied with a message that was straight to the point. I said they needed to stop being preoccupied with our son and start worrying more about being good parents to my husband. That through this all, what they needed to focus on was a healthy and healing relationship with their son. I did get curt and said, seeing your grandson is not a right, but a privilege, and your lifestyle choices directly clash with our values on how we want to raise our son. referring to the drug and alcohol use. Hours later, we received literal pages and pages of trash that Mill had written about how much of a problematic child my husband had been as a kid and how hard it was to be a good mother to someone so hard to raise. It was painful to read, and honestly, it was just a very hurtful ramble, leaping from how much of a piece of shit child my husband was to how much of a happy childhood he had and how they provided everything for him and how my husband has only repaid her by being an asshole to her, to saying having grandparents is a privilege and ending with her usual "someone could die tomorrow" guilt trip. My husband immediately called her and told her that this was the end. This wasn't a break. This was no contact for good. My husband was equal parts upset, but relieved, and life returned to normal. Again, the peace was shattered when my husband received an email from Mill. She said she was sorry and that she would like to work on a relationship with my husband. That's fine, that's between them. But I was firm that our son would not be a bargaining chip to appease her for the love and acceptance my husband needed from her. The following week, my husband came back from seeing her and seemed upset. He suggested rekindling a relationship between Mill and our son. I was furious. It seemed to me he was giving up our son because he felt bad. Was he back in the fog? Then he told me, Mill has a brain tumor. The guilt trips she had been making seemingly had some truth to them. That's why she kept saying, life's too short. Now, I work in medicine, and I know this much about her brain tumor. It's the most common type of brain tumor. It's benign, not cancerous, not spreading, and 90% of cases do not require treatment or intervention. My dilemma now is this. On the one hand, I feel like I am being an absolute asshole and an unsympathetic witch if I deny her this relationship with her grandson if she is genuinely unwell and trying to nurture a relationship with her son. On the other hand, I think it is highly unlikely that this is the end of her days, and a benign growth in her head doesn't warrant compromising my integrity. Everyone is acting like she is going to kick the bucket soon, and my husband is getting calls from family, obviously pushing us to relent. My husband is upset about the whole situation and wants me to patch things up with Mill, but respects whatever I decide. I feel like the team we had been since this whole thing happened is now comprised of just me. Did he forget the pages of hurtful things she sent to him only a week ago? But maybe this has scared her to the point of actually trying to be a better person. I can empathize that this must be scary for her and hard to deal with. I feel an immense amount of guilt for not having protected my son better leading up to this. I feel like I failed as a mother for not keeping him safe, for not having spoken up, for not doing my duty as his mom. I felt I was finally stepping up, and now I don't know if I'm going to be a failure as a mother or a failure as a wife, depending on what I choose to do. Can I be neither? Am I going to be both? I can't explain the guilt I feel. It's overwhelming. And what if Mill is that 1 in 10 who goes on to become seriously ill, and I was that evil bitch who caused her to tip over the edge? Note, in-laws have not said anything about discontinuing their overall drug or alcohol use, but have agreed to not do it around our son. Edited to add, my husband agreed that little one will never again go to the in-laws' house. I don't want them coming to our house either. What about supervised visits where we all go out to a public place or something? Or is complete no contact the way to stay? What a mess. I think OP needs to stay firm. And be firmer, honestly. She states that her husband wanting a relationship with his mom is his choice, which it absolutely is. But is it a good choice? I don't think it is. And I think OP needs to keep reminding her husband that his parents are the main source of his trauma, and they don't deserve a relationship with him. And they clearly have zero remorse for how they raised him. In fact, they blame him as being the reason he was raised so poorly. Are those people that are worthy of having a relationship with you? An unhealthy relationship of constant gaslighting and guilt tripping? I don't think it is. And besides, This isn't about the husband anymore. It's about a child. A child that doesn't deserve to have history be repeated by being around the people that traumatized his father and continue to do so. However, if contact is an absolute must, I suggest telling the in-laws that they can see their grandson if they get counseling alongside their son. OP's husband deserves to tell his story in front of a professional that will agree that he is the victim and hopefully get it through his parents' thick heads that they are the problem. God! Sorry for the ramble on this one, guys. These kinds of situations frustrate me to no end when people have no remorse for anything and have the audacity to play the victim. But that is a narcissist, and sadly, a lot of them exist. But anyways, that is all from me today. Subscribe and comment a coffee cup down below if you want to be entered into the 10K giveaway. When I reach 10K subs, I will announce 2 winners to pick anything they want from the merch store. You just have to be comfortable giving me your address, and I of course promise to keep it confidential and delete it from my computer once I have sent your loot. I won't stalk you, I promise. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed the story, and I will see you in the next Reddit video. Bye!